All right, good evening. Welcome to the September 20th Board of Selectmen meeting. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, well, our first item on the agenda is to present a check to both Josie and Jim. Jim is not here. Josie, I know you're virtual. Can we at least see your beautiful face? Hi.
I put my sound on too, but there's some noise coming out of my laptop that I don't really understand. So
Hillary, you want to go?
disruptive.
So the first item on our agenda is to give a presentation to both you and Jim Hastings. As you know, you guys were selected as our two groups that we wanted to support through the Bellingham Carnival Days. And blew our minds how much money we brought in, and super excited to have this opportunity to let you know that the senior center is going to receive $5,000 from the carnival and the golf tournament. So we are just so thrilled to be able to give that to you. We have one big check, but without you being here, we'll come into the senior center. Kelly and I will come down one day this week. But as Dennis mentioned to me, I guess what the way it's going to work is it's going to be earmarked through the celebration account. So you're able to tap into that throughout the course of the year. Are there any limitations on what she uses it for?
Yeah.
So it's up to you to decide how you want to spend that. It doesn't go away at the end of the year. So if you don't spend it all, which I encourage you to, it'll still be there at the beginning of the year. So congratulations on behalf of the select board.
Thank you guys so much for all the hard work that you did putting that carnival together. Dennis, you as well. I know you worked pretty tirelessly on that too. So I really appreciate you. You continue to take care of our seniors, and it's a blessing to be part of this town.
You bet. And what started off as just a, hey, let's do something fun for the town, turned out to be quite the moneymaker.
Yeah.
We really did not ever anticipate that
And a
kind
lot
of
of
money.
fun. You should do it every year.
Yeah, you know what? I think we might. That sounds like a great concept.
That's just an excuse.
No, I said you.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're gonna do it a little differently next year, I think. Once we decide who the charities are, they're gonna be very much involved in helping us with the volunteers. So again, congratulations, Josie. Enjoy the rest of your night. All right, well, I guess we'll do it again when Jim comes again. Yep. All right, next on the agenda, we have gifts, grants, and acceptances. Mary, are you gonna lead that conversation?
No, I believe that Hillary has prepared for you, or Chrissy has prepared for you a notice of the monies that need to be accepted formally by the Board of Selectmen. However, if I may slightly tweak that based on what you just did, would you also, as part of your motion, include the proceeds that are being allocated to the senior center as well as to the veterans groups? The purpose of doing this is for the Board of Selectmen to accept funds into the town on behalf of a specific purpose so that they may be expended without appropriation, meaning we don't have to go to town meeting. So that's why we do these acceptances periodically. So if you wouldn't mind the notification that you have in front of you with the ARPA funding, if you would also add those two donations from the Bellingham Carnival Days to that list. But I believe that the largest item that you have in front of you is the ARPA funding, which is the American Rescue Plan Act. The board had already previously accepted the direct allocation to the municipality when that came out several months ago. What you are accepting this evening is the county allocation, the $3.5 million, and I'm rounding, the $3.5 million that was allocated to the town of Bellingham via Norfolk County. So if the board could go ahead and accept that, please note that the Norfolk County, in order for them to administer the plan, the ARPA program, they are withholding 3% of the proceeds from each of the communities in Norfolk County to cover their administrative costs. And they've structured a pretty rigorous program that we will be able to go through and manage all of that record keeping. So I believe that you have that in front of you in a notice that was prepared by my office.
All right, I'll entertain a
Mr.
motion.
Chair, I'll make a motion that the select board accept the gifts and grants as listed here within, one being the American Rescue Plan Act, the other from the Bellingham Carnival Days, with said expenditures to be under the direction of the parties noted.
If you could just add, in addition, $10,000 for the
The
celebration
the
of
carnival,
town
yeah,
to
the
be.
carnival days, right?
Right.
All right, first from Mr. Spencer,
Second.
second from Mr. Martinez. Any discussion? Are we good? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none, 5-0. All right, thank you. Master plan implementation strategies. I hope you all had a chance to look through the pages, but Dennis, Jim and I met and talked about the master plan. I know Kelly, you and Don were part of the original committee that pulled this together, and Jim really highlighted for us 9 that he thought were either high priorities or, as he said, low-hanging fruit for us to be able to accomplish. So I just wanted to have an open conversation with you guys to see if you, one, are in agreement with those 9, and or if you wanted to have us bump any other ones that weren't previously identified by Jim into the queue in terms of prioritizations. So anybody have any comments or questions? You want to go through each one, or what makes sense
Probably makes
for
sense
you
to go
guys?
through the ones that are
Okay.
highlighted, the
Okay.
ones that you identify with Jim, and they're consistent with meetings that we've had.
Okay,
I think it'd be helpful, there's some that are high priority, there's some that are medium priority, maybe we just read through them and prioritize them. You know, this group here, what's most important.
If you go to the highlighted ones, those are the ones.
Those are the ones,
that we
right, I
identified.
see that.
Yeah.
Yep, I see, I know, there's those.
but your point is of the ones highlighted, some
Of the
are high
ones-
and some are
Of the
medium.
ones that are highlighted,
Yeah.
we should prioritize those.
All
Or
right,
At
so
least
do you
have a
want,
discussion about them.
does it make sense for you to read each one that's been highlighted, and then we'll open up our conversation? All right, the first one is on page 49, B1. Identify sites for creation of affordable housing through new development, redevelopment, or preservation, publicly and privately owned properties, explore or facilitate housings on sites such as the Housing Authority owned property on Center Street, Clark property on Route 140, the assessor's map and parcel 51-4, 55 and over overlay district, New England Country Club. That was identified as a high priority.
So I would agree, and it's something I've been saying since I've been on the board for a number of years, that we don't have inventory for 55 and over. And I know that was part of what we're going to do in the New England Country Club, but we know where we are there, nowhere. So for me, you know, it's just evident when I was at the cookout sponsored by Rep. Soder last week at the senior center. I talked to a few seniors, and they asked me, what's going on? We need some over 55 living. You know, they want to move away from their homes, taking care of their lawns, things of that nature, and they're really looking for it. And I know that we need something along those lines. So whatever we can do from a town, bringing in a developer, maybe having conversations. I mean, you know, Campanelli, I don't know if there's anything to be done in down at New England Country Club, what the status is there. Can we get Campanelli to look into that? Obviously, he's doing some nice work here in town. Just some thoughts, if nothing's gonna happen down there.
It's actually been before the Conservation Commission, so the Conservation Commission closed their hearing at the last meeting, so the first step is underway. Unfortunately, I think what's gonna happen though, potentially, is those properties are gonna be very expensive.
Yeah.
And I think if we're gonna do something that's 55 and older, ideally, it'd be something that's affordable. We'll see, but it wouldn't
Yeah.
surprise me if those are in the, expensive.
But Dennis, what do we need to do as a board or with the planning board or to attract a developer to come to town to do something? This is an absolute need.
Yeah, the
in this
market
town.
dictates it, and unfortunately, like the assisted living we were talking
Yeah.
about, I mean, it's great to say, let's have assisted living in town so seniors can stay here, but I know personally, because my mother was in assisted living, it's $8,000 a month.
And
So-
that's cheap.
Yeah,
That's a cheap
Yeah,
assisted
no, it is.
living.
well, she's been
But-
gone a couple of years, so that's what it was a couple of
Yeah,
years ago, I don't
but-
know what it is today,
But
but it's expensive.
I completely agree with you, Dennis, and looking at this and especially the New England Country Club, Bondi's thing, it's gonna be way too expensive for the population that we have here. they need almost like a 40B 55 plus, and I'm not sure if there's anything even out there like that, but to credit Don, that we need more affordable housing for our seniors. So I definitely agree that it's been a high priority
Yeah.
for many years.
Yeah.
It's not explicitly stated in here though, which is I think what you're leaning towards. Is that it would be
I want that to be
A high priority.
very high priority, something as a board or future board, something that seriously look into, spend some time, spend some energy into finding a developer, finding the appropriate land, maybe there's some land that we could use for that purpose.
Sure.
So in terms of procedurally, Dennis, and
Yeah.
Hillary, our purpose for today is to review it and agree or disagree or change.
Sure.
So what happens next? Is this a conversation that we have amongst the five of us and vote? Or is it just,
I just think
Talking
the
points
idea
is
is to not let this just collect dust.
Right.
And say that these are things that we're interested in and whatever mechanisms. I mean, to suggest that affordable housing for seniors is a priority, I agree with you 100%. Whether or not we're able to do something with it, working with the development is the key. I mean, we tried for years with Pearl Street. Remember the Pearl?
Yeah,
Passing
I do.
over
Yeah,
just
yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
We weren't able to get anything done there. The 55 and older housing we have up on Hartford Avenue, it's very nice, but to get into it's about $500,000 in their townhouses,
And that was just going to keep increasing.
Well,
Yeah.
why are we in the business of finding affordable housing for someone who owns a house?
I don't think
We're at
we're-
11% for in our 40B threshold now, which is higher than most every town in the state.
I don't think it's so much as being in the business of finding affordable housing, it's that we also have I think as far as our area goes, a larger number of aging population that is still aging in place in their home that eventually will not have the ability to do that and they want to
Right,
stay
so
in
to
town.
Don's point though, aren't there national entities that develop these
Mhm.
that we could reach out and say, how much land do you need? And we have properties, because I think we work favorably with a developer if it's Depot Street or some other place.
That's where I'm
that-
going.
Okay,
So
that's
in the example I used, I was talking with Jim Cupfer and Dennis Leville. If you look in Medway on Village Street, Salmon Associates is one of those like national companies. And they're putting in kind of this tiered assisted living where they have cottages for people that can, hey, I'm over 55, I want to move there. If I was single and.
And you progress
And
as
I
your
progress
situation.
as my needs.
Yeah,
And
it's a
again,
CCRC.
and it's perfect opportunity, and all I'm saying is we have, if there's land available, if we could go after some of these and say, hey, Shannon, come to Bellingham too, or
Exactly.
something like,
Agreed.
that's what I'm thinking
Yeah,
about.
I don't disagree. You've got to find the affordable component. Otherwise you wind up with what we have up at Hartford Village. If you see who's moving there, it's not people from town.
No, they're
It's
out of town.
55 and older.
No.
They're coming from Hopkinton and Dover. They're selling, very expensive homes and they're getting
For the
very
tax
nice
That's
55
right.
and
They're
older
downsizing, yeah.
condos for, they're downsizing. So,
Yeah.
we have the 55 and older, but unfortunately it's not, affordable 55 and older. Even the Salmon, I'm sure in Medway, it's
It's
not
huge.
cheap.
like 15,000 a month average there.
So just jumping ahead to the next recommended one that's on page 50,
yes?
the seek housing choice designation by the state so we could be eligible for state grant funding. I think that should be something that is used in conjunction with
Right,
Sure.
so
the previous one.
combining
And
those.
we can
And we'll actually be poised with, in the conversations we had with Jim, we'll actually be positioned after the third building permit is issued for Curtis. So there'd be 5 structures there. After the third one, it'll give us the number that we need to go ahead and obtain that. So we're poised to get that. So that certainly.
So that's
will
one of
help.
those low hanging fruit ones.
That's
Right,
one of
Jim
those-
has
Right.
that.
So
he has
we're all
that
lined
nice-
up to grab
And I
it.
Yes,
note
early
on
spring
that,
for
trying to
that.
understand what housing choice means. So what's the definition of housing choice from the state? and
You've got to
federal?
have reached your 10%.
Okay,
That's one of the bigger things. You have to have diversity of housing. You have to have zoning that allows, different types of housing. So we meet the criteria right now with the exception of having the affordable housing. We'll be at that threshold after the third building is actually permitted and then we'll be there. So there are some great grant funds out there that we'd be able to pursue. A lot of it's planning grant But
Are they
planning can be
big
helpful.
funds? Are there big grants? available?
Planning, to
Planning
help with
grants?
planning,
Okay.
which is what, or marketing, which is what we're looking to do. If
Right.
you go back to the previous one, to try and find out how do we create truly affordable senior housing as opposed to just senior housing that nobody in town can afford anyway, and
Okay.
people are coming from other places to
Right.
occupy.
Right.
You look at Depot Court and Rentham Manor, that's where, seniors that sell their homes move into, and those properties, they do a great job trying to keep them up, but they are tired. They were built in the sixties. If we could target some of that housing, which truly,
And there's a wait list to get into those.
truly
A long
people
one.
from the community move into, because a lot of the people in there, they sold their home and they
That's
moved in. If we could develop more housing like that, I think that's the Center Street property, and it's the housing authority that owns it.
Mhm.
That's the type of, affordable housing truly, and of course, they're subsidized by the federal government, those properties. Rent the manor and keep it.
Right, no,
Yeah.
no,
And I guess that's my point. If we can get some state grants
Yeah.
to entice the developers to come in to, use these grant funding to offset some of their costs, so we're not cutting into
I
their
just-
profit margins.
I just don't know where to begin,
Yeah.
right? We can talk and talk and talk. I just don't know where to begin. And who would be responsible? Maybe it's the next, town planner
Yeah.
or some, whoever, comes and replaces Jim.
Yeah, but it's gotta be done, it's gotta be subsidized somehow,
Yeah.
because no developer is gonna come in and build it at a loss. You know,
Agreed, no, I
yeah.
understand.
That's the tough part.
Okay.
And I think Jim was saying that as early as spring, we should have an idea of whether or not we're gonna be eligible for any of that state funding, so
Right.
it's not too
If
far
that
away
third,
to
once
at
that
least get
third,
us-
village permit.
get some skin in the game, yeah. All right, next is on page 51A3, explore ways to improve the sign bylaws to create and maintain a cohesive visual framework for the town. Jim, in collaboration with Tim, we're looking to have that up and coordinated by May so that we don't just have all kinds of huge signs, little signs, that we have some sort of what to expect signage to look like in Bellingham. I think of like Medway, where it's kind of, we're not
Yeah.
Medway, but we have some
And we've had
guidelines.
that one, we went to town meeting with a proposal, I don't know, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, maybe you remember. Don.
I do.
And it was shot down.
It was.
I think we need to come up with something that the business community feels is fair,
Right.
but I think it's long overdue.
Yeah.
And
He said, we're
with
not
the-
looking to have it be like, wooden signs that are, the letters are burnt in. We're not looking to
Yeah.
go like total old
But not
school,
one
but
plaza with 5 signs
Yes.
littered across the.
That's right.
Yeah.
The entryway.
One big sign with their business names under the sign,
That makes sense.
like that.
Okay, next, any other comments on that one? I'm just gonna
Everyone
keep
be
going.
grandfathered in, so we'll be just going forward.
New business, likely.
Yeah, you'd look to have businesses, right, if they were gonna update their sign or change their sign, they'd have to come into compliance.
I mean, do we have to grandfather? Legally, I mean, if we said, this is what we're doing, we'll give you 5 years to make a change to the sign. You go to the developers who own the strip malls, say, this is what we're looking for in the town. This is the sign, we're gonna give you 3 years. And if you do this, we can wait, we'll do something for them and send them to, I mean, there's a way to do this.
Yeah, if you work with them, because,
Work with them. You don't just say you're grandfathered. I think you say, we're doing this.
yeah,
know?
because sign bylaws are zoning bylaws, so
Yeah.
zoning, obviously, they'd be grandfathered in zoning. Typically, I'm sure courts would look at, typically, your sign bylaws are zoning, they're not general bylaws.
Right.
But I agree with you, if you provide incentives and assistance, whether it's through community development, if it's in low and moderate income neighborhoods, like Pulaski, I mean, I would think it'd be an ideal place to try and pursue something. like that.
Yeah, they're all over the place.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, next on page 52, A2 at the bottom, become eligible for complete streets grant funding, as well as other state and federal grants in order to leverage local and private investments. That obviously refers to the car, bike, and walkways, and, I think we're gonna start to see that.
We get a big check mark there, because we are a complete streets community now, so
Yes.
we have been approved and we're eligible for those funding. We did apply for a grant, weren't successful, but I think the next round we should be in good shape.
Dennis, even with the streets in our town, the way they are, we've been given that designation.
Yeah, because what it does is it essentially says that you will at least consider as you're developing streets, the bike path,
Sure,
the
we
sidewalks.
do.
You don't have to build it every time you modify a street. But like what we're doing on Route 126 to the
Mhm.
center of town, that's all gonna be
Right.
complete street compliant.
Speaking of which, I think that's where we're going next, right? Page 54, require bike lanes and shared use paths on major roads. Use paths, what's wrong with me? Major roadways. He identified South Main Street there as another low-hanging fruit as we move forward with that development. Next on page 58, did I miss any?
No,
No.
you're.
58 D1, protection and linkage of bordering resources as well as the enhancement of those resources. For instance, the Set Trail could provide a bike and pedestrian corridor that could potentially link the Franklin State Forest with Silver Lake, the Blackstone State Forest, and to the Providence Worcester Bikeway. So
What's holding
again,
that up?
We recently got some funding. We recently got some good news from DCR. They've actually got us programmed for the Fox Run Road where it ends all the way to South Main Street. So that's going to be constructed in the next year or two. It's going to take that long, but construction should begin. They were talking about going out to bid in November.
Yeah.
So that'll be extended, and ultimately the goal is to get all the way up to Worcester on that rail, and parts of it are constructed along the way. So
Well, I know my wife's been walking with a friend from Blackstone, going up through, starting in Blackstone, it goes from Providence all the way to Worcester.
and we're going that way.
And we're gonna go, where are we gonna connect there? What's the plan?
The plan is for us to get, we built that bridge on South Main Street, so you can go right under it and points north
And
towards,
that will connect with that.
eventually,
Eventually.
get all the way to Blackstone.
You were the Blackstone CVS.
I do, yeah.
So, but the next phase is the Fox Run Road to South Main Street. And they're funding it, and they're big ticket items, a couple $1 million to do it. It'll be the impervious material again, similar to the one that was built.
Who maintains that now?
DCR does,
DCR.
Department of Conservation
It
and
was out there the
Recreation.
other day, I went for a walk, it's in really nice shape.
Yeah, they're responsible for it. Yeah, that's the nice thing about it. They own it. It's their property. Yeah. So they own it and they maintain it. And they're very responsive when there are issues. They come out.
it's really nice. I love that we
It's
have it
used a
in
lot going in now at the other end,
Right.
going into Franklin's over as well.
But I do have and I know I brought this up before, so the one on Lake Street, we really need to have some lights flashing there on both sides. I just blown away by the speed. When my wife went down, I try park, because it's easy for me to get there, and it's nuts.
We were denied a grant, but the conversation that we had a Zoom meeting with DCR a couple weeks ago, and that's one of the things that they committed to was the Lake Street and Grove Street, because we did a joint application, remember, Lake Street and Grove Street for those, and they said it should be something that they're able to do as part of this
I just
project.
look at in Milford, you're up on, 85, the one from Milford starts over by where Friends used to be, and all the way through, Field, all that. You just see the blinking lights, nice lit up signs, and we just need something along those lines, because it part of it you can't see.
Yeah.
Just because there's
you
blind
know-
spots. There's blind spots.
Yeah, if you know the area, you slow down, but if you don't,
Well,
you don't
yeah.
know what's there.
You don't, that's right.
You're right on top of it.
I don't want to wait till somebody gets killed,
Well, the good news is it's gonna be, it's part of the,
It is, yeah.
so we don't have to pay for it.
right?
Yeah.
All right, the next item, we're gonna be talking about an executive session anyway, right? Funding and assessment and feasibility study for DPW.
Yeah, coincidentally.
Yeah, boom, okay.
Perfect.
The last two on page 59, C2. Great connections to walkable town destinations such as the town common and Old Town Hall. I think we're looking into some brick walkways and some creative lighting according to Jim. Dennis, is that?
Yeah, and we're actually, of course, with the Lobosor project
Right.
out behind us, we're gonna have a nice walkable downtown area. When you think about it, we'll have sidewalks and safe pedestrian traffic to be able to loop around the entire town center.
Oh,
But
that's
yeah, that is
excellent.
part of the plan to look at the crosswalks over the
Very nice. All right, and the last one, keep the school systems on track with the priorities outlined in the 2019 Energy Reduction Plan, seeking communities funding to assist in energy reduction improvements.
We've done multiple projects there. We did a lighting upgrade, we did a boiler upgrade, so we've got some good grant funding out of that.
So is there anything that we have not covered that any of you would like to see prioritized, or are you comfortable with those 9?
I'm fine with bond is a separate point of discussion.
Yeah,
Same for you, sound good?
Yeah, there's just one, A2 on page 59, at the very bottom. We've got 2 scenic roads in town. You'd never know it. One's Maple Street and one's, it escapes me, probably if I tell you else pizza. That's the other one, it's St. Dennis.
Farm
Scenic Road,
Street.
Farm Street, yeah.
Farm Street.
I knew being other than that, I was trying to think, and you wouldn't know that they were scenic roads. So I think we really have to look at that bylaw to see really what's the value of naming a road a scenic road? Because
I
to me,
think
there's
it was-
no value.
I think it was originally designed to stop development.
It
and
was.
They're cut through roads.
Yeah.
They're not scenic roads, you
No.
just remove them.
Why have them?
Remove
It
the
doesn't
designation.
do anything, or we strengthen what the scenic road actually means, because back when I bought my house 30+ years ago, it was designated scenic road, and I was told there'd be no development on that road because it's scenic. Well, that's the furthest thing from the truth.
Yeah.
You know,
So that's more of a
It just
definition.
requires,
Yeah.
as you know, replication of walls that come down. or
yeah, trees, if trees are removed, you have to replace
plant so
trees.
many,
Yeah, exactly.
But I think, we can put these together, get it to the planning board, let them know that these are the items that the board has identified initially, not to say the rest aren't important, but
Yeah.
and we've got a new player coming on board eventually, and it's certainly a starting point. I think there's some real, some real hot topics like the sign bylaw. We've been talking about it for some time, and I think we got to get back into it, that and a few of the other items.
All right, any other comments on master plan? All right, we're gonna move on to the sale of land, Phillips Drive. We have a,
We need to vote on that.
We,
all right,
Do you want to, do
Do
you
it
want
as
to
a
give them a synopsis?
yeah, it's similar to the situation that we had back in the spring, if you recall. There were two property owners at the end of Phillips Drive. There was a parcel of town sold to each. It was approved at town meeting in 1995. It was never recorded. So we made one of the owners whole, and they didn't really realize that it hadn't been conveyed to them. So they went to sell their property, and they had built a shed on the piece of property that they purchased from the town and had paid for it. And as I said, it was approved by town meeting. So the other family that lives at the end of Phillips Drive, who bought the other half of the parcel that connected the two, is looking to have the sale memorialized as well. And this will do it. And then attorneys will take care of it.
okay, so do we need to read this as a motion?
Yes.
Anybody?
I'll do it. I move to affirm and ratify the actions of the Board of Selectmen on October 4th, 1995, to convey said land referenced on the attached sheet to Alan S. Elliott and Barbara J. Elliott forthwith for consideration of $500 already received by the town of Bellingham.
Second.
First by Mr. Martinez, second by Mr. Spencer. Any other comments, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right.
The next one is the Cultural Council. So Linda Trudeau, who is our director, or the director of the Bellingham Cultural Council, has been off the board for 2 years. She still serves as the director, but she wants to be back on the board as a voting member. So she's eligible right now in October. So we can reappoint her for a 3-year term.
Right, again, as a motion. Hillary? We need a motion to do this?
Yes,
or-
please.
So I make a motion to appoint Linda Trudeau as a voting member on the Cultural Council.
Second.
First by Kelly, second by Dan. All those in favor, say aye. Opposed? None. All right, next we have Terry Graham, right?
Terry Graham is the outreach program coordinator at the Bellingham Senior Center, and she would like to help out on the Cultural Council and has been recommended by Linda Trudeau.
Very actively engaged at the senior center. There's a single thing that happens there that Terry isn't associated with. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to appoint Terry Graham to the cultural council.
So,
First by Mr. Spencer, second by Mr.
Discussion.
Martinez. Discussion, Mr. Khan.
Why are we appointing someone who doesn't live in town?
I don't think it's an issue with Terry. She is so intimately engaged with the seniors in Bellingham. It's her job. She's here every day.
So you can still do it without being appointed.
Is there a stipend involved?
No, this particular board, if you recall, has, I think 24 can be appointed as the maximum number, and we've got like 5 or 6, so that's why we had opened it up. I think we might,
I just think where she's so intimately involved with what's going on there. I don't see it as a issue personally. Do you think it's an issue with her?
I think anyone, I've never voted in favor of these things, so I'm gonna vote no. So Make it 4-1. It's fine.
the cultural council is not part of the Bellingham Senior Center, it's a separate.
separate, correct.
Yeah, she's actively involved, but it's a separate board in town, and they do different things, so.
Correct.
I'm just curious why would, if she lives out of town, what would her interest be in being in this council in Bellingham?
I
I'm
just
not
think if you
against it,
take
I'm
someone,
just-
I
I'm
think
just
the
curious.
rationale is, I think it boxes out other people, because people think that a small working group is running everything, and I would rather see Linda make a concerted effort to engage the residents of Bellingham and outside.
I think if you recall, we recently got a letter from the State Cultural Council, and one of the criticisms was the lack of membership. So the goal is, that's why she reached out to Terry, because she knew Terry had an interest there. A couple of other people that hopefully will be coming forward, but you can have up to, I believe it's
22.
22.
Yeah, so you're not really boxing anyone out.
I don't think,
You have been consistent.
Yeah.
We anticipated
in
that.
all seriousness, what you just did with the carnival is cultural. So everyone from Adam Thorell to yourselves, if we're looking for people to be named, should be those individuals, because those are things, people that are doing things that are cultural. They're impacting the culture of this town. Not that you want to be a member.
That's a good point. I'm not against it. That's a really good point. So we should be going after folks like Adam and others to be on this cultural committee, right? This
I
council.
mean, there isn't a-
That's on the
You're
finance.
talking about people that are already very engaged.
It was just an
in town.
example.
It's a good concept,
But
yes,
I mean,
conceptually, yes.
if the
but-
state is criticizing us, name people who are doing things that you don't have to show up at the senior center to do. If it's a numbers game, we've got numbers because there's people doing it.
They're just not on the council.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they have to go to every meeting.
Or any.
Right.
Any other-
Okay, let's take the vote.
I should-
Any
Come
other
on.
discussion?
I'm sure they can wake up one day and be like, oh, by the way, you're on the cultural council,
Okay.
congratulations.
And she knows a lot of the people at the senior center, and a lot of the programs are done there.
And I don't think it's necessarily because she is the outreach program coordinator at the senior center, she should be on this. It's that Terry herself runs a number of programs at the senior and outside of the senior center, and has we've seen her work, so we know the well-rounded nature of Terry as a person and why she would be good on this committee, a committee that they cannot get people to be on. So I vote
I'm
yes.
just asking the question, we haven't taken the vote yet. What do they do?
They receive funding from the state to sponsor programs in town, different events.
I'll give you an
They
example.
sponsor a lot of
They-
programs in the
yeah.
The
schools.
schools. So back when my kids were at Stallbrook, the cultural council was very active. And they brought in this artist. And those paintings are still up in Stallbrook School. They did a number of programs. They were fantastic. They provided a lot of funding for some great programs. Again, I only know Stallbrook. I don't know Macy Middle School. Maybe the same thing happens there. I'm sure it does. But they've done a lot for this town.
the
For the
common-
youth in the town.
yeah, the
This isn't
common-
about the seniors.
Yeah.
It's a mixture, but they do a lot for the young kids in town.
And Linda Trudeau is the common thread. She's been at us in the cultural council like 30 years.
Yeah,
So
she
the programs
did
that
it,
you're
yeah.
describing.
Absolutely. There's a lot of programs like that. I remember they had a Frederick Douglass impersonator during Black History Month. They had other programs at Stalwart that came. It was really fantastic. I don't know if they're still doing it. I have no idea. I'm guessing in the school.
All right, so back to the topic at hand. Terry Graham, I'll entertain a vote, or what am I doing?
We already did.
We did.
We had the motion, we had a second.
All right,
Now we should-
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
All right, 4-1. All right,
Oh,
congratulations to Linda and Terry.
You are nothing else if not predictable, Mr. Connor.
Oh, boy. Now let's back myself out, so I'm gonna go old school. Annual town meeting warrants. Signing and issuing. Have you all had a chance to review the warrant as it's been outlined? Do we have any questions, comments, changes? So again, do we have to vote on this, or
So,
this is
we're-
just signing
yeah,
it?
so we're just gonna vote to issue it onto the finance committee.
Okay.
If you guys are all okay with it. I'm not gonna have you sign it tonight. I'll have you come in next week and sign it.
All right, so
Motion to issue the warrant for the fall town meeting to the finance committee.
Second?
Discussion.
sure.
So Article 8. I know it's gonna get voted on, but I don't even want, do we have to put it in the warrant? Article 8 is the Larry Sposato short-term lease. He came before us. I just think it's ridiculous. And I
Why
like
wouldn't you
Larry.
want to put it in the warrant?
I don't even want to be voted on. I just think it's ridiculous. That's why, that's a personal opinion.
But it's being
Right, but
petitioned
it's-
by,
it's a-
Right,
citizens.
we have
We
to-
can't stop
I
it.
know we can't stop it. It's just, that's just my opinion. I mean,
We
I
can
have
as a,
already,
we can as a group,
Not support
Actually,
it.
he got the. he
all
got
the
the
respect in the
signature,
world
so
for
you
Larry.
gave it.
So
Okay.
this is
Yes, the
his
signatures.
personal, this is personal for him. So,
Then he'll have to get up and defend that at town
Yeah.
meeting and everyone gets a vote,
Yeah.
so.
it is what it is. It's US. It's our country.
All right, so we're going to vote on passing it to finance.
You have a motion already.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. 5-0. July abatements, Mrs. Grant. You got those?
So we have July and August. So we will start with July. Yes, I have them. Madam Chair, I'd like to present the abatements for the month of July as follows. Capital improvement charge in the amount of $264.67. Sewer in the amount of $411.18. Stormwater in the amount of $70.67. Trash in the amount of $337.37. Water in the amount of $764.34 for a total of $1,848.23.
Second with a comment.
Yes, please.
I just, looking at the list, it's nice to see the water penalties drastically coming down that we're abating. That's a good thing.
Yeah, Barbara at the DPW, Barbara Suklov's done a phenomenal job.
She sent us a list, an updated list. How many were on there? Like 4
Yeah,
or something?
Yeah. really done a great job with that.
All right, so do we have, were you
I
first?
seconded.
Two seconds, I'm first.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None.
August abatements. Capital improvement charge in the amount of $164.96. Sewer in the amount of $554.73. Stormwater in the amount of $108. Trash in the amount of $149.50. Water in the amount of $623.68, and water service charge in the amount of $8.13 for a total of $1,609.
Second.
First from Mrs. Grant, second from Mr. Spencer. Comments, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None. August 16th minutes.
motion to approve is written.
Second.
First by Mr. Connor, second by Mr. No, yes, first by Mr. Second by Mr. Martinez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Anything under old business? Anybody would like to bring up? Going once, going twice. How about new business? Town administrators report, Mr. Frame.
Good evening.
Welcome.
I'm going to be bringing up a request for executive session to discuss the purchase of real property, and Building Commissioner Tim Accardi, I'd like to have join us. Before that, just a couple of brief updates. We've seen very little progress with regard to our town center improvement. Actually, there's some pole relocations that were underway. It should be gearing up in the next week or two. But they did some initial work, got some things done. Poles were located. Remember Pulaski Boulevard, the biggest issue we had was with Verizon and the inability to get those poles placed. Fortunately, they have placed most of the poles up front, so we're not going to have that at the tail end. But that's the slowdown right now. It is a little frustrating. We received a few calls asking, what's going on, why isn't it moving quicker? But that's the long and short of it. They should be back. It is a good contract, a very reputable contract, and they should be out in the next week or two. Obviously, they don't want to mobilize and go full bore until they're really ready to get into it. Route 126, all those water services are just about done. We're finishing them up. That was a bit of an inconvenience, but again, not unlike Pulaski Boulevard. If you remember, we went in and did all the water services, made a mess of the road, and then we received the American Recovery Reinvestment Act funds back in 2009 to do Pulaski Boulevard. Same thing out here. We'll be receiving, we're all queued up for this project to be bid, the roadway improvements in November. So November with a spring start. With big projects, we also have a lot of smaller projects that are going to be underway. I don't know if they're going to be underway this fall or in the spring. I know Mr. Martinez was in on the road committee meetings. Anyone else in on those?
That was back in the day, but not
Yeah,
recently.
so we did have a meeting just recently prioritizing. Don does a great job of using his software to identify the roads most in need. It's well over $1 million worth of work that's going, that program to be done, that funding is available. But whether or not, right now, contractors are very busy, whether or not we get the work done this fall or in the spring, it's going to get done. The funding's there and the roads have been prioritized. So that will be happening. I met with the Finance Committee tonight at 5:30. They're gearing up for the November 17th town meeting. So we always talk about, what's going on in town and what do you need to know. November 17th town meeting, we'll be putting it up on the marquees and letting people know as we get closer. But you approve the warrant tonight, and the Finance Committee will be meeting next on October 6th, which I believe is a Wednesday. So we'll be meeting on the 6th to go over some of the warrant articles and some of the warrant articles that involve financial matters.
Capital improvement meets on the 4th.
Yes.
You guys all got your binders, right?
Just a thought,
Yes.
when we did the real estate 3-part series, that got a lot of good press. Would we consider doing something similar to go through the articles?
Oh, like that,
No, yeah,
the TV station?
yeah,
Yep.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Because we've talked about doing a couple of
Yeah.
series on, how does our town
Public service
government run?
announcements.
Yeah.
What happens at town meeting, but I like adding that as well with.
We could have a few people zoom in that want to speak to the different articles. Mrs. McNulty and I have been trying for about a month and a half to meet with the contractor out here and do a cable program to advertise, but unfortunately they haven't mobilized. So that will be happening eventually.
Might want to look at a Facebook Live too.
Look at you, Dan Spencer.
Combination of the two, but that's a good idea. We could do
Yeah,
a
I
town
like
meeting
that idea.
preview.
It's just the other thing too, is we talk about the town center, just the general planning, what's going on in the town with, all the different buildings, what's going on, just to keep people up to date. There's a big planning board meeting this Thursday, so if you're listening in out there, and you're concerned, you want to know what's going on, attend the planning board meeting, be so. It really should.
All right, any other things anybody wants to talk about before we adjourn?
I would just like to request an executive session to discuss the consideration of purchasing real property. And so
We have to adjourn
Mr. Accardi in that.
No, we don't have to adjourn.
No, I'm gonna
So
pull
it
the-
requires a motion and a second,
Okay.
and we anticipate that there'll be no further comment following the executive
Okay.
session.
Motion to adjourn to executive session. No additional comments. Paul.
Second.
First by Mr. Spencer, second by Mr. Martinez. All in
So
favor,
then
say
Hillary
aye.
would just pull the board.
Hillary, opposed?
I'm gonna pull the board to see who's in favor of going into executive session. Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Mrs. McNulty.
Yes.
Mr. Martinez.
Yes.
No, I'm just kidding, yes.
All right. Special shout out to my daughter Lindsay.
Good night, Lindsay, go study.
Thanks for coming to class.
And for those that did attend, I see a few names out there. Welcome. Thank you for joining. And you're welcome to ask questions while you're out there. You can turn your mics off, turn your cameras on, and say hi.
Have a good night. Take care.
Hey, guys,